There are three dimensional whys every trader must identify before taking a position in the market. And I'm going to run through them very quickly. The first dimensional why is the fundamental why. This fundamental why is very crucial because it's the underlying reason why a particular asset or currency pair will move in a particular direction. Now, this fundamental why, under the fundamental why, there are two key uh, aspects you might need to look into. The first one is economic indicator, or we call it economic stance of the asset. So if you pick a particular asset to trade, let's say GBP JPY, the first thing you have to do under the fundamental why is that you will look at the economic stance of the two currencies. The two currencies, I mean to say that the two countries. Of course, for instance, GBP, you have to look at the economic stance of the Great Britain. Now, you will now look at the economic stance of Japan. In that sense, you might be looking at indicators like interest rates. So to know the economic stance, you want to look at interest rate. For instance, you look at, okay, do we have any divergence in the interest rate? What is the interest rate of GBP? What is the interest rate for JPY? Now, once you get that and you notice that there is a divergence, I mean, maybe one is 4% and the other one is maybe 2% or 1% or 0.5%. The distance between the two interest rates is what we call divergence in fundamental divergence analysis. So once you identify the economic stance, the next thing you want to look at under the fundamental why is what is the geopolitical stance around the globe and as it relates to GBP and JPY. Is there any war going on? Is there any tension going on, whether globally or regionally, that can affect GBP or JPY, as the case may be? Is there a trade war going on that can affect GBP or JPY? Now, you need to look into this. After you have done this, that is when you are certain that you have fundamental why you are to take a position for GBP JPY, as an example that we are using. After the fundamental why, you need to look at what we call sentimental why. What is your sentimental why? Is there a sentiment backing the fundamentals that you have seen? Sentimental why is also divided into two broad categories. We have the risk sentiment and the sentiment position. I will quickly explain that. Risk sentiment means after you have done the fundamental why, in terms of economic stance and geopolitical stance, you want to look at how these fundamentals are priced into the market in terms of whether there is risk aversion in the market or not. So you want to look at the risk sentiment in terms of risk on and risk off. Thereafter, you want to now look at the sentiment position of the big banks, the hedge fund, the big players. What are they? Are they net long or net short? That is sentiment position. These two dimensions of sentimental why is very crucial. You need to look into it before you even think of taking a position. And the last dimension of why is the technical why. This is where a lot of people get it wrong, because after the fundamental why and the sentiment why, this is where you are to know where to enter. Where exactly are you to enter? Now, under the technical why, there are three dimensions of analysis you are to do. The first one is directional bias. You must be able to identify your directional bias before taking any position. On the technical now, I mean you are checking the chart. You need to decide what is the directional bias. And this must not have to do with your emotion. It's not what you are feeling. It should be clear to all and sundry that the directional bias for GBP JPY, just like the example we are using, is buy or a sell. After the directional bias, the next thing you are to look out for is what is the wave I will trade. Because once you identify the directional bias, you need to decide, since it is obvious and it is generally acceptable that the trend is your friend, follow the trend. Now, what wave am I to follow? Is it a daily wave or a weekly wave or a monthly wave? There is need for you to do what we call top-down wave count analysis to identify the particular wave you are to follow. Then after that, you will now ask yourself, where is the key zones? Key zones and liquidity clustering. This is very important if you are to take a position in the market after you have looked at the directional bias, you have looked at the top-down analysis of your wave count, and you have identified a particular wave to follow. You need to wait for the market to price into a key zone where there is liquidity clustering, and that is where you want to take position and to join the trend. These are the dimensions of analysis you are to do if you really want to trade in the forex market professionally. Now, we encourage you to stay glued to this channel because some of these dimensions of analysis, I've just given you a summary of what you are to do or what you are to look out for as a professional trader. We will still be dissecting into them with different tutorial videos that will really explain what I mean by fundamental why, sentiment why, and how to approach these things, what I mean by directional bias, how to see it at a glance. Stay glued to this YouTube channel, and I believe me, you will not regret doing so. Thank you. God bless you.